In this episode, I want to talk about the prepositions that we use with the accusative case. And some of these prepositions are also used with other cases, so it's important to keep them straight when you use which one. Or one instance that's often mixed up with another case are these prepositions v and na, and then also через. So we use the accusative case when we're expressing direction toward something. So you'll remember we use v and na with the prepositional case when we're talking about location somewhere. So, but here we're talking about direction, and we have movement, we're going toward something. So we're going to use the accusative case. Basically, v is into. So this is v is into. Na is onto. And через is across. So we use these prepositions with the accusative case when we're talking about movement or direction towards something. And this is answering that question, куда? Remember? So, for example, я кладу книгу в шкаф, or в сумку. So we have a couple accusative case. We have this книгу, right? I put what, or I place what, the book in the bookcase or in the cupboard or into a bag. So those are all accusative case. Куда? Where did I put the book? В сумку, в шкаф. Right? So it's answering куда. Similarly, я кладу книгу на стол, onto the table, or я кладу книгу куда? Я кладу книгу на полку. Я кладу книгу на полку, on the shelf. So whenever we're answering the question куда, or через, meaning across, so we could say человек переходит через улицу. So the person crossed the street. Okay, so we're pretty familiar with v and na and через when we're talking about direction. But there are also instances when we use these prepositions with the accusative case and it's not about movement. Let's look at some of those. So we'll start with через because it's an easier, there are less instances of it. So we also use через, meaning through or by some intermediary. So there's motion sort of in a figurative sense. For example, они разговаривают через переводчика. So they converse through an interpreter. So you can kind of think of their conversation or their words going through, like there's motion through this interpreter, right? So it's in the accusative case. Or Он нашел работу через газету. Он нашел работу через, so he found it through, with the help of this intermediary, the newspaper. And there's another example of the accusative case, right? He found what? What did he find? He found work. So we have two examples of the accusative case in this sentence. All right. Other uses for the preposition v in the accusative case, when we're talking about at a given time or hour, we could say Она легла спать в 2 часа. So she lay down to sleep at 2 o'clock. So here at, or at a given hour, в 2 часа. Or we could invite someone to come over and we would say приходите в субботу в час. So приходите в субботу в час. So come over on Saturday at 1. We can also use it v to mean at a given age. For example, дети идут в школу в 5 лет. Okay, so again, we're going to have a couple examples of the accusative case. We have дети идут куда? Они идут в школу. And then at what age do they go? В 5 лет. So we've got, again, two instances of the accusative case being used with that preposition v. One of them meaning motion towards something, куда, and one of them for indicating a given age. So also, I just realized over here, this is also kind of meaning on a given day. So we have a given time or hour or on a given day. So another example would be в пятницу я иду к врачу. So в пятницу is in the accusative, right? So on a given day, on Friday, I go to the doctor. We use v when saying per unit of time. Let's say this magazine comes out 6 times a year, right? Every other month. So журнал выходит 6 раз в год. 6 times per year. Here's our per year. В год. Or у нас историю. So we have our history lesson, right? 3 раза в неделю. So we have our history lessons 3 times per week. В неделю. So here's our per. V. And then you've also already come across this, so there are a couple verbs that then require v in the accusative case, but I'm just going to give you one because you'll come across it and it's pretty useful. So when you're talking about playing games, so играть в plus the accusative case. So играть в что-то. Они играют в Шахматы. So they play chess. They're playing chess. Or она играет в теннис. She's playing tennis. She plays tennis. So that's a useful verb. Alright, and now let's look at the different uses of na. So again, when that movement isn't quite visible, so maybe it's the movement of your vision towards something, you can think of it, kind of like the movement of the words through the interpreter. So we can say na on смотрит на картину. So he looks at, this meaning at. So his vision is going towards the picture, or na картину. He looks at the picture. We can use na to mean for a length of time. Маша дала мне книгу на неделю. So Masha gave me a book for some length of time, a week. На неделю. So for a week. And again, we have книгу because it's the direct object. Masha gave what? A book. Also, when we're talking about for in the sense of intended for something, we can use на. Мы забронировали номер на двоих. So we reserved a room for two. This verb's familiar to you from the chapter on hotels. So for the two of us, right? Intended, so that room is intended for the two of us. And also we can use na to mean by a certain amount. So мы опоздали на час. So we were late by an hour, not час, in the accusative case. Or часы спешат на одну минуту. So the watch is fast by 1 minute. And then there are a couple other prepositions that you would use with the accusative case, and you probably haven't come across them yet, and to prevent an overload of information, I'm just going to mention one other, and that's pro, the preposition pro, and it means about in a colloquial way. So it's very colloquial. So film был про войну. So there's our preposition pro requiring the accusative case. So война, so war is put into the accusative case. So the film is about war. And if you say про себя, it means to oneself. So for example, дети читали про себя. So the children read to themselves. So if you have that phrase про себя, it means to oneself. The accusative case is very common. And it's used with lots of different prepositions. And you just got to keep straight when you're using the accusative case and when you're using other cases.